Hello and welcome to the Bacon Bites. My name's Seth Bacon, and this morning is our second live stream. So we'll see how this goes, and have made a few changes. And so let me know what you think of these changes, and we'll go from there. So again, welcome to the mornings with Bacon and business apps. And this morning what we're going to do is we're going to go through a number of different things. It's all in the description down below, so check that out. That's what we're going to be going through today. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will go from there. If you're watching this after the fact, feel free to drop a comment and I'll circle back around and answer any questions you may have. So first of all, just want to give a shout out to the community. And so what we're going to do is I want to highlight sort of Dynamics communities and what is happening sort of in the business applications community. And there's been a lot of different things when it comes to different business applications, what's going on and how people are really creating a community around a platform, which is crazy. And it's really neat to see. And it's something that I've been very passionate about and very much enjoy when it comes to sort of what that looks like. And when it comes to enjoying different people and getting to know people through the community of business applications. And it's really, I don't know, you form communities around sports, around different hobbies and passions, whether it's outdoors and going up in the mountains with your Jeep or going hiking, or whether it's, again, like I said, sports, or whether it's reading, or maybe a lot of breweries and stuff like that. And so people are going out to different beer releases and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of different types of communities. And one of the interesting things I find is that business applications has its own community, and which is kind of crazy because it's software. So there's people excited about software, and it's the fact that you're able to do something and help somebody improve their life because of software. I think is what I enjoy most about it, is that you're able to come in, able to impact somebody's day-to-day life when they're coming into work and they're using this platform every day. Being able to take that and then improve it and improve their user experience is huge. And so, because you really do impact a lot of people. You hear the story of Steve Jobs and how he really wanted to make when a computer loads, that it doesn't take hours and hours, or you know what I'm saying, it takes 2 minutes. And so he challenged the team saying, hey, let's make that really short. How do we make that even shorter? How do we make that 5 seconds? Because if we can go down from a minute to 5 seconds, how much time does that save an organization? And so being able to think about that kind of thing when somebody's doing this repetitive thing, how do we improve the user experience in such a way that they enjoy using the tool, and go from there. So anyways, so we're going to jump into communities. It's something that I'm very excited about and enjoy. And then from there, what we're going to do is go into just some news with what's going on, and then we'll get into some actual Dynamics 365 content. So again, recording this on a Saturday morning, so hopefully you guys all have your coffee. I'm about halfway through mine, doing a little cold latte this morning. So hopefully you guys have all grabbed a cup of coffee. I know I've a couple of people out in the UK that have reached out and enjoyed watching this, and so shout out to them. And I know it's about 5 o'clock there, so hopefully you guys have a different beverage in your pint glass. So anyways, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm trying to do my best to see as people come in, to welcome them into the chat. I don't know if YouTube has that feature, and that's something that I'm still working on. So I don't know if anybody's out there or what. So we'll keep that coming and find out later and soon. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in. I think that's the next thing to do. So as always, follow us on Twitter, we don't have an Instagram. If that's something that you guys want to see, let us know, and we will we'll work on that. And you may hear a little bacon bite in the back. So he is supposed to be going down for a nap, and that's why I try to time this for this morning, and we'll find out. So just kind of going back to the community stuff, like I mentioned before, there's here in Seattle, there's a number of different communities that are out there, and I've been a part of the Dynamics 365 customer engagement, also known as formerly known as CRM. And so I've been a chapter leader here in the Seattle area and have enjoyed that and being able to give back to the community that way for my day to day. What was interesting is that there's a Power Apps and a Power Platform community, and it's one of those things that we're looking to start here in Seattle. And the Dynamics Communities, who runs the CRM user group and stuff like that, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd be interested in having you help start the Power Apps platform as well." Seattle, it is some extension of Dynamics 365, and so being able to bring that out. So, hi, Dion, sorry. Hey, Dion, for jumping in this morning. Good morning to you as well. I think it's afternoon, if I remember correctly where you're at. So very much appreciate you jumping in. And so when it comes to the community and just expanding it out. And so I was like, okay, so what does this look like? And so I reached out to a couple of people on Twitter and want to give them a shout out. So on Twitter, we have Greg Hurlman. He's at Twitter 98 codes. And so he's been the sponsor for the D365 CE group. And he's been somebody that's been very supportive and he actually works at Microsoft, which is great, and helps sponsoring that. And so he's been a huge thing. And so when I said, hey, we're looking at doing the Power Platform kind of stuff, and he reached out and said, hey, how can I support, which is great. So definitely check him out. He's a huge supporter of the community. And then I can't say enough about him. And then also Tasha, so at Tasha SEV, I think that's how you say these. And this is the fun thing about shouting people out on Twitter. You don't have any idea how to say it. It's like reading a book. So anyways, Greg, and then also Tasha, we were able to meet up and sync up, and it was crazy. We went up and met for a drink and had the opportunity to just catch up, and in 15 minutes turned into essentially 2 hours. And we were just talking and geeking out about either the platform or just different hobbies that we had. And so I think that's a huge highlight of communities, and just that opportunity to jump in and get to know people and understand that you're not alone. A lot of times as a system administrator or somebody that's working remote, that's on as a part of a team that's not local. Like, again, maybe you're in a WeWork space or something like that. Or I know for myself, I went from Denver to Seattle, and I was a part of a team, but the team was not co-located. And so being able to find those people in that community is huge because it helps you either answer questions or be able to connect with other people. So huge shout out to them. They've done a lot, and they've connected with me with a lot of different people this week. And so I can't say enough of how much I appreciate just their getting to know them and the joy that they have for communities. And so highly recommend following them on Twitter. The other update I wanted to give real quick as we're talking about communities is with Dynamics 365 CE, or the user group here in Seattle. So a quick shout out to the group here. Had an opportunity to meet with Audrey, who's also the co-leader here. And so she has been working hard with David for Microsoft to get us a Power Apps in a day. And so we're going to be doing that at the MTC, the Microsoft Technology Center, or the Customer Experience Center. I think they were doing some rebranding. I'm not sure what the label is, but we're going to be doing that in Bellevue. And you can see our next upcoming meeting here on February 13th. And so we're going to be checking that out. And so please join us and check if you're able to be in the Bellevue area. The space is limited. So I think we anticipate being sort of 80% of our normal capacity. We'll take that 80% of our normal attendees. We'll take up 80% of the capacity. So we got about 20% flex in that. So definitely check it out. Highly recommend the online community as well. Feel free to shout out and join us if you're in the area. And that kind of leads into the next part, which we talked about, was the Power Apps and Flow community and the Power Apps. So the Power Platform. So again, that's a whole Microsoft thing that is going on, is how do we go ahead and bring this in where we bring in additional there's different tools. And so how do we bring these additional tools into a way that everybody can use them? And so the CE team, the D365 CE group is very interested in that tool. And there's other people. And that's what's crazy about these Power Apps tools, is they connect to anything and everything. And so whether it's Salesforce or SharePoint or Office 365 or Exchange or any number of different backends, I feel like there's 50, maybe 100 plus different connectors that these power platform things can connect to. And so there's a lot of interest in that. And so, anyways, looking to start that group. And what that led to was me reaching out to the Power Apps group. So I'll go ahead and make this a large screen so that way you guys can see it. But this Power Apps group, led by Stefan, has been going for 5 years here in Seattle. I had no idea at the time. They've been on Meetup is where they've been posting all their different events and stuff like that. And so they are associated with Dynamics communities as well. And I went there and it was probably 30 people there, probably 5 or 6 new people there. And it was a great opportunity just to see how this community that meets monthly, which is crazy, because that takes a lot of work, getting speakers lined up and stuff like that. And so they meet for roughly just over an hour or so of content. And then they also have the opportunity to network. And I think that's the biggest thing is people coming in. Anytime a new person comes into a community, they have questions and they're looking for those answers. And they have a specific thing they're trying to answer for their company. And so it was neat running across this group and understanding what they do. And it was awesome content too. And would highly recommend that group. The great thing about being here in Seattle is they have an opportunity to actually bring in the product team. And so we had the product team join us for about half an hour and they gave some input. And that's something else we do with the D365 CE team is they come in and do some NDA sessions as well. And so great content, great way to opportunity to learn. So if you're in the Seattle area, I highly recommend checking them out. The descriptions contains the URL for this one as well. So definitely check that and we'll go on to the next one. The next one, I reached out on Twitter and said, hey, John, interested in what you're doing. And so I gave John just a quick tweet and said, John, what are you doing? How do we help facilitate this? How do we get this started? I didn't know who he was. I just had found him on Twitter. I think he had tweeted something about flows and I realized that he was at Microsoft. And so I was like, hey, I'm interested in connecting and stuff like that. I see that you're actively involved in this. Come to find out that he's kind of a big deal in the flow community. And they actually, but he reached out like in 5-10 minutes later. He's like, hey, let's do this. What does this look like? And so again, a great opportunity. I think Twitter has really changed the way that you kind of network. And so it used to be networking through LinkedIn or like business cards and stuff like that. But Twitter is a great place. And again, you find people like Greg and Tasha and John that are very passionate about communities and very much enjoy that. And so they are willing and helpful to do that. So anyways, so it was crazy meeting with John and then being able to come in and find out that they had a full like 8-hour day on Flow, which is nuts. How do you do 8 hours a day on like one business application? I mean, I say that sarcastically because we do that all the time at like Summit and stuff like that. But they had 8 hours of virtual training and then they posted it for free on YouTube. And this whole thing was for free. And it was something that John just led. I mean, he's like the guy. And so he's like the face of Flow. And so he's a senior project manager, if I remember correctly, at Microsoft. And so definitely check this out. This is in the description. They go through and it was, I haven't had a chance to watch all of it, but they kind of go through this concept of like, how do you start with Flow and then where do you go from there? And it was amazing just to sort of see the community that's already around just Flow. I mean, that's not Power Apps. I mean, it's Flow specifically. And then a couple of different things, and I won't spend too much more time on this. But again, John's the one that was leading it. And then Jerry, what was Jerry's last name? He's on Twitter. I put him in the description, I think. But anyways, Jerry Weinstock, he's also heavily involved in the CRM, D365 CE community. And from there, he did a session on Flow, and then we also had some stuff with Power Apps. And so it's just sort of crazy, all this different stuff. So Dion, I don't know if you had an opportunity to catch any of that, but highly recommend, Dion, that you check that out. And I know that's something that hopefully I'll be able to do over Christmas. We'll see what happens. But so Dion, check that out. I think I had sent that over. Maybe I hadn't. So I'll make sure to reach out, and I'll go ahead and put this in the chat so everybody's got it. So check that out. It's an awesome tutorial, an awesome way to interact and to learn more about Flow. Again, broken into 4 different parts in 2 hours each, and highly well done. And so again, they kind of paired all the videos together. Everybody's got a everybody's got an intro, and then they kind of do the cutscenes. And again, there's a whole thing on, if you look on Twitter, there's a lot of stuff out there as well. So, so check that out. And from there, I think the next thing I wanted to cover, so that's kind of an update on the community. We are going to start a Power Apps community here. Everybody's welcome, especially those interested in Power Apps, to join us on February 13th for the Dynamics 365 CE group. Again, check out crmug.com/Seattle to find out more information about that. So check that out. From there, let's jump into a little more about CE. Sorry, I get really excited about this stuff and can go on. So anyways, so April is coming, and it's going to be a great time, and it's also going to be crazy. The reason for that is Microsoft's doing their next release when it comes to April 2019, and a lot of stuff is changing. This is an article, and it's in the description below, that came out, I think this was yesterday, actually middle of the week, where they talked about the new release timeline, what's coming. So I'm not going to read through this, but progressive and continuous and seamless updates. And so they talk about how these updates are going to start coming, and the fact that they're starting to just have everybody on the platform, and there's not a lot of time. I mean, I say there's not a lot of time to update, but they're just going to sort of start updating this on a continuous basis, and going to go ahead and update it for you. And again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Please leave a comment down below, or somebody type it in the chat if that's not the case. It's definitely something that I'm interested in learning more, just exactly how people anticipate this playing out. As somebody that has customers, how do we help prepare them? And I think Juka commented on that, and so that's the ability to go ahead into April 2019 releases and what's coming with the new features, so that way you can test it, and you can turn this on in the admin center. And we'll get to the admin center a little later today. I want to check this out and make sure that see if this is in the current environment that I have, or if this is something that is in a special demo environment or something. So we'll find out. We'll check this out here in a minute. But that ability to turn it on, so being able to preview what's coming. And that, again, all this is in the link down below in the description, previewing April 2019 release functionalities. So, yeah, so this is coming. This is a great article and sort of what this looks like, what features or experiences are available for preview. Again, do this in your sandbox. What's kind of crazy is that it looks like it's an on-off. I don't know if it's a on, leave it on, or if it's something you can turn on for your sandbox and then you could turn off. Which would be kind of crazy, right? You turn on your sandbox, you test it out, and then you're able to turn it off. The reason that's impactful is because right now, when you upgrade an environment, you upgrade to the different version, and that version stays. And so we ran into it this week where we needed to do a hot fix. But what the problem was is we'd upgraded dev because we're going through this cycle. We're upgraded dev. We're working on testing, and there was an issue in production. And so now we have to go through and take this. How do we take it? And we can't move it to these later versions because this was 9.1. The middle dev and test were 8.2. So how do we go ahead and move these through? And so that was something that I'll be very interested to see how this plays out. If it is something, once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. And again, I haven't played with this yet. We were going through the admin center last week. The hope is that we'll get some more time today to go through the admin center as well. So we'll leave this up. Again, here's some, how do I prepare for the updates? So this is great. I think this is being put out. I don't know who wrote this. 365 blog wrote this. So I'm going to be reading through this more in depth later today as well. So check it out. It's something that I think is very important to know, especially if you're doing implementations. How do I help prepare my clients for this change? And then somebody that's a system administrator being able to come back and see the same information. I think the good thing and the scary thing is a lot of times partners are just a couple of steps ahead of where clients are, and just thinking holistically, where do I need to go with this? But would highly recommend. Microsoft's doing an awesome job right now of giving tons of information out to anybody and everybody. And so there's not a lot of stuff that we know as partners that clients and administrators don't have access to. And so there's a ton of information. Everything I'm sharing here is just found on the web. So check this out. and learn some more about that. So if you found an issue, how do you deal with it? And again, all these are, so you can go ahead and click that and everything comes up. So going back, I want to hit this article one more time. So what's coming with the new releases? It talks about early visibility through release notes. And so with release notes, it's crazy that Microsoft's doing this, because it used to be, again, I talk about way back in the day, in 2011, 13, 15, and then 16, you see how long in between. And so now what they're doing is they're releasing every 6 months, which is, again, we talked about it last week, really good and really bad, right? And so when it comes to release notes, what they're doing is they're giving you like almost 6 months in advance what's going on. So October release notes, I think these came out in August or July. It came out in the summer, which was 3-4 months prior to being released. And when you talk about what's coming up next, and I think there was a link that I meant to click, key updates for the release coming up. So the 2019 release. And these are huge dates, right? So release notes available end of January. That gives you 3 months to check out the release notes. You can start previewing them, 10 days later, 11 days later, February 1st. And so you can start previewing them. And again, this is where I'm interested based on this. Can I go ahead and preview those now? Or not? What is it? Oh, here's what you need to do on February 1st. So I think he took a screenshot of that and updated. So I don't think it's out there yet. But previews available, so we can check those out and start doing the preview, the sandbox stuff. And if it's just a matter of clicking that button, you don't have to schedule an update is a big thing, right? So you used to have to schedule an update saying, when is this update coming? Okay, well, I'm going to schedule it out 3 weeks in advance. I'm going to line up all the resources. But now what we can do is say, okay, we're going to schedule things, and then we're just going to flip this. And that's going to, I don't know, maybe you don't have to wait in line anymore. I don't know. It'd be nice. Like, who wants to wait in line? Nobody wants to wait in line. I'm thinking of all the different lines I have to wait in, TSA, DMV, and those aren't a lot of fun. Grocery stores, I mean, that's the whole thing with self-checkout or 15 items or less. So we don't have to wait in line and get queued up and look to go. So very curious on what that looks like with these updates coming. So we'll keep you posted. We'll do more of this as we get closer. We'll check out the new features. We'll check out the release notes on a morning with Bacon and Business Apps, and then general availability again on the 5th. And again, I'm curious on how that impacts when it comes to doing the next updates, right? So when we do additional updates, what does that look like? So on April 5th, does everybody just change and like you get it? Or is it something that, April 5th, but maybe I'll do it like later. So we'll keep you posted. I'll let you guys know. But again, start planning now for your April. And I think that's the big thing here is that it's coming and that Microsoft's trying to help out with that. So I'm going to leave that one open so I can come back to it. The other one that I wanted to highlight, this was shared with by a colleague of mine. And then it was also referenced by another colleague in the UK, Jamie, and just wanted to go through this real quick. This is make higher quality apps with Solution Checker. And so this goes through, and I knew I had an opportunity to be at Dynamics 365 Saturdays here in Seattle, and they talked about this, and it's really cool because it'll actually go through and check your items and say, is this best practice almost? And so what the hope is that if Microsoft starts embedding tools like this, then you no longer have to worry about like moving something over and it eventually breaking or slowing down your system because you didn't know of a better way to do it. And so that's what it's going through now is here's a better way to do things. We're going to go through your stuff from a code perspective and see, does this help you? Does this run efficiently kind of thing? Is this going to start slowing down your system based on the way you've configured it? And very interested in this. I know the people in the UK are as well, the coworkers over there that have been doing a lot with Power Apps and the Power Platform solution. I think my understanding is this is also coming to CRM or Dynamics 365 CE. So I will keep you posted on this as I get an opportunity to play around with this. Maybe we'll do another Saturday morning, maybe next week with something like this or not. So check it out. It's pretty cool. And in concept, I think it's really cool because what this is doing is it's starting to improve and bringing that knowledge that's often tribal knowledge down to anybody and everybody, which is really empowering. And I think that's the biggest thing. And you hear from Microsoft empowering everybody to do more. And so that's exactly this concept is now as a system administrator, I can go through and do some stuff, but if it's not the very best, Microsoft's going to try to help me get to that next level and next time it comes through. So, so that's that. I had, I had these cool slides, but I did with like news and then like you saw that just a minute ago, community. And so I tried to do some of that kind of stuff and totally built those and forgot to use them. And so that's what happens. So welcome to live streaming. Everything's live and nothing's rehearsed. It is rehearsed and it's a good thing it's rehearsed. So anyways, what's next? Any other news that people have heard about before we jump into some of this other content out there? Anything else that anybody wants to share as far as what you've learned and where you're going? Feel free to either send it over in chat or maybe hit me up on Twitter at the Bacon Bites or let's go ahead and connect offline. Very much interested in what you guys are learning out there as well. If there's something you guys want to share on this or something you want to highlight on a Saturday morning type of thing, shoot it over to me. I'll include it in hopefully the next Saturday morning with coffee. And we'll go from there. So if there's ever anything that you guys want me to review and sort of talk through, I don't know how helpful this is. Hopefully it is helpful or at least entertaining. But if there's anything you guys want me to ever cover, let me know. Inside View will no longer be free. Oh, Dion, thank you. Thanks for highlighting that. Yeah. So this is very interesting and had the opportunity to connect with Dion a little on this is when it comes to Inside View. So Inside View has been there roughly 2-3 years. It's a tool that helps salespeople understand the organizations that they're going into. So if I'm going to go and pursue an organization, let's get some demographic information about the organization. What's the size? Who are the players? What about some of the news around it? And so with Inside View, that was just something that came as a license. And what's interesting is I feel like at least the projects that I've worked on, they were like case management ones. And that's what I've worked on the last 2 years. And so there's not a lot of benefit necessarily around that. And so it was a hard sort of conversation to be like, oh yeah, check out this cool tool that is called Inside View. And it helps you understand what the organization is. And they're like, we manage cases. Like, don't worry about, I don't care about the organization. That's somebody else. That's the account manager's job. Which is, I don't know, that's a longer story. But anyways, but yeah, so it came out this week that Inside View will no longer be just part of a free license with Microsoft. And I think so 2 things on that. One, I don't think people realize how much free stuff that they're getting with their license. So definitely review with your partner, review. I think there's different tools out there that help you cover, okay, Flow is included. I mean, it's included in a lot of different licenses and nobody realizes that. And so people have these tools. Also work with Microsoft because I know that Microsoft has, obviously they have a huge interest in people leveraging the tools that they give them. And so, again, talk with those different folks and see what it looks like to include some of those free tools that you already have that you're already paying for in there. And Inside View is one of them. So that's kind of my plug for understanding what your environment is and what you have. Inside View, going back to that, it's interesting because Inside View has, in sales, it's huge. Being able to go in and see what, who the CEO is, CFO, who these people are, have they recently made a change in upper management? What does that look like? And knowing that a new person has come in. I've also heard stories of people using this and they, because it's like an RSS feed and says, okay, this is the news, this is where they're at in the news, and this is what's the news about them. They're able to go in and have those informed conversations and say, hey, I just saw that you got recognized for X, Y, and Z. Congrats on that. And they're like, how did you know that? We just had the press release yesterday or something like that. And so as a client, you feel very in tune that this person understands me, understands my business. And so it's a huge deal. What's interesting about them no longer offering it is the fact that it was so tightly integrated. And so it was in like the solution management component. And so it'll be interesting. And this is where I think Dion had mentioned, what does it look like? And is it going to be replaced by something? So you've now taken this tool that I think people used. It was heavily embedded in the product, but it was a separate company that was leveraging it, or that was providing it. So are they going to replace that with something? Maybe LinkedIn. So does LinkedIn have a component that they're going to go ahead and implement and bring in as part of that? And so that'll be interesting. I'd be very curious on what fills that gap, because I think there are companies that leverage that tool. Even if I haven't had an opportunity to interact with it a whole lot, there's a need for that, I think. And again, when you talk about sales and stuff like that, that's going to be huge. So Dion, I very much appreciate you dropping that out there. I will work on getting a link to that and put it in the description after the show. Awesome. No, I very much appreciate that. Anybody else has any comments, check them out down below on news. I know there's a lot going on, and I think that's the best and the worst thing about Microsoft right now is there is so much going on. So other things I wanted to cover this morning before we get too much further down the line. I think I covered all those different points. HoloLens. So awesome to see the King County wins award for using Microsoft HoloLens. And if you don't know, Seattle is in King County. And so this is my county that's here locally that I sit in. And one sort of the upsetting part is that about a year and a half ago or so, they had a spill here in the areas. And with that, they had a spill that impacted the Puget Sound, and Seattle is very aware of how it impacts the waterways, because the fact is that we have rain. I think people are aware that Seattle occasionally rains, and the other thing that's unique about Seattle is it's almost like a spit of land that's right between. So we have Lake Washington on one side, and then we also have Puget Sound on the other. And so all the water we have immediately kind of flows into one of two of those bodies. And so it's a huge impact anytime that something happens, whether it's rain coming down and impacting the waterways, or it's in this case, what happened was there was a sewage treatment plant that backed up. And so they took a look at saying, how are we training people? And if you watch the video and you talk about it, what they talk about is the fact that it's awesome that people have binders of information and what that looks like. Because so we have a binder this big, right? So we have 500 pages of what to do in an emergency. You know, the first thing you do when you're in an emergency, probably not look at the binder. I'm going to say maybe 99 times out of 100, it's rarely that you look in the binder, right? All of a sudden things are going out and you're just supposed to know it and react, because there's no way you're going to read through it, but it should be just instinctive almost what you do during emergencies. And that's really tough because you can't learn what's in a 500-page binder. And so what they talk about is using HoloLens. Because if you can imagine, just looking at this sort of screen right here, can you imagine like looking at that light panel just on a piece of paper, just being like, cool, yeah, that looks like every other light panel that we have here. Yep, nope, that's not that one. I don't know. So anyways, using HoloLens, it's kind of cool because they come in and say, okay, let's put a HoloLens on, which is that mixed reality, that augmented reality that you kind of see here, is that she's wearing a HoloLens and she's looking at a panel of lights and being able to highlight, okay, well, this is this and this is what it does. Okay, so physically I know where I'm at when I'm doing this. I can interact and see physically what's going on as well. And then I can also see sort of what that reference is. And so I know for me, who's a visual learner and likes to go through things, this would be a huge benefit to go through them. And so then on the other side, you can have, okay, this is what it does. Here's a description of it. And here's some use cases to use it. So training is going to be a huge thing for the use of HoloLens. The other part of this is in an emergency is being able to essentially go through and do, I think sorry, I got distracted. There's a playbook that I wanted to go back on the release notes for last October. Anyways, we'll hit that up. And it can go through and be able to capture sort of what steps you need to go through. And so, very cool. Sort of use of this awesome use of mixed reality in training people. The other thing that Dion also pointed out here, a couple of things. One, going back to Inside View, you can still get Inside View through. You can still purchase it. Inside View, it's no longer free, and so I don't know the licensing on that. So again, I'll try to drop a link in the description if you're interested in that. I don't get any commissions or anything off of anything you purchase. So definitely check out Inside View. Also, HoloLens, as Dion pointed out, has the opportunity to be leveraged in field service. And this is something that I thought was crazy. And so we did at Summit this past year, they did Polaris. And so Polaris, using HoloLens, was able to like install a light bar at a remote location. And that was kind of cool. What I'm very interested in is why aren't companies like John Deere, Cat, some of these larger automotive companies, you're not going to drive your John Deere tractor into the shop, right? So farmers are either fixing themselves or they're having somebody go out and fix it for them. Why don't you throw in like a HoloLens with a purchase or a lease of a John Deere tractor? So I'm a farmer, something's broke. Either I can flip through the manual. I don't know exactly how they do it right now, but flipping through and then being able to come back in and I drive it back to wherever it needs to be. I attach it HoloLens. Maybe again, if you had like a cell phone, throw a cell phone up there, attach it, have HoloLens connect to it, and then have that be your connection. And now I can talk to an operator at a John Deere that's like, oh yeah, let me look at that. And so the John Deere service team is able to view that, and they're in a remote location, and you're in the middle of a field. And so how do we go ahead and pair that together? And so I don't know. I see a lot of potential with that. And again, field service being that concept of individuals that are going out there and installing cable, repairing an MRI machine. It'd be interesting again to see this kind of technology work in third world countries. And so if not necessarily for operations and stuff like that, but can you imagine being able to empower a local individual through a HoloLens to be able to work on a little more complex thing, or be able to train them remotely, where you can go on and do on-site training, but then you can leave a HoloLens as a tool, and then they can connect with you back wherever you are using a HoloLens. And so I think there's a lot of awesome potential when it comes to HoloLens with mixed reality, training people, getting them off of books the way that we've learned for so many years, and doing that hands-on components of it. I'll be interested to see how this interacts with professional services. Speaking of professional services, segue. So this is the good stuff about HoloLens. The scary stuff, the good, the bad, the creepy. I couldn't come up with anything bad on this segment this week. So this was the good. Didn't come up with anything on the bad. The creepy is this thing. Great haircut. I wish I had hair. But anyways, can you imagine this being your flight attendant? And so I think it's Air New Zealand is using HoloLens to help interact with individuals. And I think this is where it gets a little creepy and a little weird. How this is going to be able to be worked, because in theory this is really good, but can you imagine if your flight attendant looked at you and they saw this information? And again, this is some of the information, but this is I don't know, so you can tell you're anxious, and again, that's using sort of the different tools that Microsoft already has, that Amazon already has, being able to tell somebody's age and gender and their emotions or something based on their facial expressions and stuff like that. And so can you imagine this being your flight attendant? And so on some ways it's like, oh, this is like super cool, and it's going to help professional services, and they're going to be able to interact with you better. I think you look kind of funny, which I don't know if I'd have a hard time taking somebody like that seriously. Maybe that's the future. Maybe I'm just old school and think that this is like, who was it? It wasn't Data, but it's the guy from Reading Rainbow that did Star Trek. but he had the things on his eyes, right? And so you notice that everybody in Star Trek didn't, but he did, because he had lost his eyes. Anyways, we're not gonna we're not gonna trek out. But anyways, that's kind of this concept, right? Being able to have something over your eyes, being able to visually receive that information, and then be able to go from there and take action. And so in this example, he talks about how he's anxious. How can I help? And the fact is that the guy wants to, he's afraid he's going to miss his train. And so this is a little creepy. Time since last drink, last meal, last visit. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, so this is the creepy. So he gets a drink, and then the guy helps him figure out what his transportation looks like once he hits the ground. And that's, it's a little creepy. Anyways, so that's the creepy of the good, the bad, and the creepy. So, so with that, that's the news update. The next thing I want to do is give a quick shout out to the podcast. It's coming. I know one or two people have asked about it. I've recorded a couple of episodes, have socialized those with a couple of friends and coworkers to get their thoughts on it, ways we can improve. And so that way, again, we're producing high quality content. We have recorded 2 of them, hoping to record another one potentially today. We'll see what happens. Looking at having a co-host. And we'll see what happens. It's always more interesting when there's 2 people talking as opposed to one, I think. So that's why I have chat. And so definitely check out chat down here, over there. So check out chat over there. If you're on the live stream, if not, drop a comment down below and we'll get back to it. But definitely enjoy the interaction. Dion, huge shout out to you for joining the stream today and making it interactive. We're not done yet. I think we're going to do a couple more minutes. And with that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and switch over to this screen. So I'm going to go ahead and load in my other environment. So everybody kind of take a pause, grab some more coffee, or there we go. Let's go to the right browser and get logged in here. Awesome. I love when it automatically logs you in. So let's go ahead and switch back to this camera. So we'll check it out. Actually, so we're going to go to admin. So that's the news. That's the podcast update. Super simple. Community as well. Obviously I'm just using these slides because, I created them and I really wanted to use them and I totally forgot. Note to self next time. Anyways, community update. Look for local communities, join the online community. Flow community is super strong online. Check it out. There's a lot of people out there. You're not alone. Here in Seattle, reach out to me. I'll do my best to connect you with somebody. The community is a great place, especially like Stefan. The guy's been doing it for 5 years just on his own. He's been a little associated with Dynamics communities, a little bit, but hasn't, I don't know. He's kind of made it his own thing. And so very much appreciate individuals like that. And then again, Greg and Tasha that are just rocking it and just super supportive. They come from a SharePoint background and stuff like that, but they're very much engaged in anything and all things community. There's even an Office 365 community I didn't get a chance to mention earlier. So check them out. So I'm jumping back over here. So we're going to go ahead and check out the admin center like we did last time. So this is the little more content. If anybody has any questions about Dynamics 365 CE or customer engagement, feel free. This is assuming that you know some things about Dynamics 365 already. Kind of focus on administrators, not going through sort of the basics of here's how you log in and stuff like that. But if you have those questions, more than happy to answer them. Any questions that you have. There's no silly questions. Any interactions appreciated. So awesome. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the new system, the new admin center preview. Interesting. I don't remember it being preview last week, but anyways, so we're using a new Power Platform admin center, also call your instances or called environments. That's nice. So let's go ahead and go to settings. I think this is what we were going through last time. And we'll see if any of our changes have come through. See how long this takes. One of the things we had talked about last week was regional formatting. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an item that people can upvote. And Microsoft, that was something that Greg and Tasha recommended is if you come across things like this, let's go ahead and create I think they go through the voting system and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is create it next time. We do this. What we'll do is have this sort of up on the other side, create a ticket here on stream, and then be able to have people, well, I'll drop it in the chat window, and then people will be able to upvote it while we're watching. And then we can get a bunch of upvotes and say, Microsoft, you're silly. This should be changed. So anyways, if you go to regional formatting, it goes to system settings. The system seems a little slow. Let me make sure that the stream's still good. Looks like the stream's still going. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there. It looks like it. I was afraid of is that there is going to be some delay. Anyways, let's keep pressing. Oh, there it goes. So system settings, it came up. And here are the different system settings. I'm going to zoom in so people can see that a little better. Keep me posted. This is about 150 right here, so let me know if that's about the right size. I'm going to go ahead and make this one 150 as well. So just keep in mind when you're doing this that your screen's going to look a little bit different because I'm super zoomed in, so everybody can see this. Okay, so we did the left side last time. Jump in here with a little more on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of screens here on different sides like we did last time. So this is email settings. I think this is going to be fairly straightforward. Oh, this is going to be my save button. Interesting that it's kind of like static there. Other highlight again, for those that didn't catch it last week, email settings. So if you have questions in the new system, you can just like pop it out, which is huge, right? Because on the old system, if you had a question, you'd have to go Google it or YouTube it or whatever. And so Microsoft's really trying to get this information in there, which is awesome. So props to Microsoft for doing that, because that enables anybody to be able to understand what this is immediately. So process email only for approved users. Yes. What? This is what we're doing last time. Yeah, let's do this. Why would it not be yes? Is my question. So what's my other option? If it's not for approved users, default on. That's not helpful, Microsoft. Can you give me more info? Like what's okay? I give them props and then immediately I tear them down, right? So process emails only for approved users. If I turn that off, like who can do it? All users? I would assume so. Emails only for approved users. So this would be emails for all users, I guess. Anyways, that's weird. For only approved queues. So sync information right management enabled to the server. Delete appointments to the system auto detects changes that will result in change in ownership. Oh, I don't know if I've seen that one before. This seemed new to me. They are also disenabled. So I wonder if these are new features coming out. Notifications. Interesting. This is that concept again of when do I want to be notified of issues, of errors and warnings, and just informational ones. So you can have that come through. Notify mailbox owner. Who else? Would you just notify the admin if not the mailbox owner? I think that's an interesting one. I don't remember this being an option previously, but that's good to know. Sorry, because it's not coffee, you get all the ice jingling and stuff like that. So I'll mute myself. Hopefully it gets unmuted. Attachment size is something that's normal. Synchronization methods, all standard things. And again, if you've seen that's all in this area as well. So if we go over to settings, administration, and then system settings, this will all be there. So we'll let that spin up here in a minute. Email form options, use secure frames to restrict email message content only to with unresolved recipients. Oh, this is good. I don't think you had that option over here. Maybe you did. So there's the approved ones like we saw before. So again, just sort of mirroring, it came from here, now it's here type of thing. Prefixes, interesting. I don't see any prefix options. Maybe it's a later one. Track emails. Yeah, so not all of these are there. Here's the warning. Oh, here's the notify. Yeah, so I guess that's all been there. Who you notify and stuff like that. Also attachments, just going back to that, that's also the same, or has been in the past. How big can you have an attachment to notes? So that's there. Email form options. This one's important, again, the unresolved ones, and I don't think there's an option. Maybe it's changed. But that's the concept of, I want to send an email to social media at thebaconbites.com or something like that, right? That's not currently a contact in the system. So either I have to create a contact in the system or associate it to something in the system, and then I can send out an email to it. What you can do here is you could use a free-form text field, and you can send it to social media at thebaconbites.com and just be done, as opposed to doing sort of creating a contact, then associating it to it. And I know that's something that's been a request, and so it's neat to see it here. Interesting. So manually resolves an unresolved email address, apply it to similar ones as well. So interesting stuff. Nothing hugely exciting or new there, so we'll keep pressing on. Again, more information, what that means over here. Email tracking, this is what I would anticipate this section is right here. Use correlation, tracking tokens. That's that love-hate relationship people have with tracking tokens. What's the prefix? Base tracking number. Number of digits for personal numbers. Huh. And the reason I have no idea about this is because we never use it. Because you can imagine when you get an email from CRM 001, 0001, and then give the subject, and the subject line, that it feels funny, right? Because you know immediately that it's a company sending you an email and that it's going to be tracked. Kind of funny feeling on this. Apparently, I heard rumors that Ford still uses this email tracking token. Not knocking on Ford or anything like that. But it, like in the support instance, makes sense, right? So we're going to do support. We want to make sure that here's your ticket number almost, but it's not your ticket number even. It's tracking number. So anyways, smart matching. So ignore the subject line words. So if there's specific things that you want to ignore, number of subject words, can you do, yeah, smart tracking was there before. Yeah. And so interesting that they had things pre-filled in, but now they don't have things pre-filled in. And let's be honest, I have no idea what this means. And so it would be cool if they actually, like, one, populated that, and then two, gave you kind of an idea of what the heck is going on with these. But I digress. Folder level tracking. This is awesome. Again, if you haven't seen it before, that's where you can track things at the server level. So just go ahead and drag and drop into a folder, and that's going to go ahead and automatically track it. I've heard mixed reviews on that when it comes to folder level tracking. The idea there being some people find it, in theory, it's amazing, but in practice, I've heard people struggle with it. I haven't had an opportunity to implement it yet. But if you can imagine somebody that's continuously working with the same account, being able to drag and drop that. So I do that all the time. Personally, when I work with a client, because I have 3-4 months worth of stuff, and so I just drag and drop it to a folder, I can only imagine how easy that would be as opposed to setting track, set regarding, and so forth. And so that's, in theory, I think it would be great. I'd love for our company to use it as well. Tracking items, interesting that these are turned off. and then tracking emails between each other. So if me and a coworker send emails to each other, what does that look like? How does that impact it? Do we track them as one activity, or do we track them as separate? Because I have mine that I'm sending and then the person that's receiving. So I don't anticipate these pop-outs have been fairly okay, except with the currency one, where they go. So mailboxes, I totally anticipate it taking us to, we'll see if it does, email configurations. Yeah. So I have pending emails I need to approve, but this is just your list of mailboxes. That's old school. But again, you're able to do that from a different perspective. So a single place, that kind of makes sense. Server profiles, this again, I anticipate taking us to email server profiles. It's all kind of right there. So that kind of makes sense. So nothing new there. Social engagement. Oh, this is going to be the rabbit hole, if anything. I'm nervous about this one. NetBreeze, tools.netbreeze, NetBreeze configuration. Huh. I think the other thing people often underestimate is reading the URL, because what you find in a URL can just be like loads of information. So disclaimer about your data and where your data is going to go. Things to be very much aware of if you're dealing with anybody that's in Europe and the whole GDPR item. So I don't know how much I want to go down on this. Connect. Oh, so I need to go ahead and set up a social engagement environment. So I'm not going to do that today, but we'll go ahead and close that. So we'll come back to that, but interesting that they have services here, and different type of services that we have coming out. Announcements. I think, again, we're going to go through this probably fairly quickly. This is good information to have, interesting information where it's at. I don't know how beneficial it is. So here's announcements. I'd be interested to see if any of y'all have used announcements. I'd be very interested. I haven't used announcements in 6 years or so. If you use announcements, leave a comment down below, throw it in the chat. Let us know what you're using announcements for. Would love to have a use case for announcements and what that would look like. I just haven't. So auto numbering. This is one of the things I mentioned last time. Auto numbering. Where this may be see how much Seth knows, but this looks like the similar auto numbering that's always been there. So if I want to auto number my contracts, no, okay, this is definitely becoming Stump the Chump. There's announcements. There's auto numbering. Yep. Okay. Cool. So contracts, cases. So when we create a case, what does that look like? And again, these are beneficial things. I think it's very good to have unique IDs for your case numbers. The question is, how much should that be, right? So do I need case 001001 and then some a suffix? It'd be interesting to turn that off. Again, these are all things that have kind of already been there. I don't see anything new there, but again, you can do that. It's great for invoices. Again, let's say quotes. It's good for quotes. Invoices, you should be looking at your ERP or accounting system to number your orders and invoices and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. Campaigns, it's interesting on campaigns, and I'm not going to go through too much more of that. Dion for the win. Announcements were deprecated in CRM 2016. This is why I love this community. I've never used it. Dion is well aware of what gets used, when it gets used, why it gets used. So shout out for Dion for that. They were deprecated in 2016. It's interesting they're still here. Again, Microsoft's phasing them out. They do it typically over a release or two, but that's awesome catch by Dion. It's crazy though. Like, how crazy is it that they still have this? So this is their preview, right? And they still have announcements. Microsoft, what are you doing, dude? Why are you going? Anyways, somebody spent time to drop that on there, and hopefully it wasn't I don't know who did this, and don't get mad at me if you're the one that did this. But it almost like their task was, okay, take what's on the right hand side of the pane and put it on the left. And like, it wasn't like with consideration of, okay, well, this is deprecated. So you know what, we're going to build this. We're going to spend 2 weeks doing this, and it's going to be then removed in 6 months. And so this 2 weeks worth of work is going to be nothing. But it's, I don't know. Anyways, let's quickly move on. That's a pet peeve and stuff. So automatic record creation policy, very cool item. I think this is back actually under the business administration, business management, if I remember correctly. This may be under cases. But if I recall correctly, and this is where it's taken me, it's being able to create something on the fly, automatic record creation rules and updates. Very cool tool, being able to come in here, and we won't get into it right now. So same place, as you can see. But being able to go through there and actually automatically create something on the fly. So when something comes in, when an email comes in, something like that, go ahead and create it for us. Learning path is loading. I didn't enable learning path, and now it's going to take this forever to load. Okay, we don't have time for that. We'll go back there. So for those of you who don't know, again, I mentioned this I think earlier in the stream, but baby bacon is down for a nap right now, and so this is essentially my time to drink some coffee, to relax, to catch up on what's out there in Dynamics and in business applications in general. And sort of my time limit is essentially kind of from 9:30 when he goes down, and then to whenever he wakes up. And so sometimes that's half an hour, 45 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 hours. And so that's kind of dictates how long the stream is. Anyways, so that's why you'll see me take off a side of the headphones so I can hear them. So bulk deletions. I don't think there's anything really to get into here. This is actually under data management. To do bulk record deletions. Again, it looks like they're just porting over things direct without doing much updates. Data import wizard. This one's curious because you can actually do imports here. I don't know if there's a data import wizard specifically. Like if you look at like the different data management stuff, there wasn't like a data import wizard straight up. Oh, this is like last time with the regional formatting. So when I go to data import wizard, do you know what I want to be taken to? I want to be taken directly to this screen, the screen that's coming up on the right. Import data, right? This is the import data wizard. What you took me to is a list of data that's already imported. And how is that any different? I don't know if we saw it somewhere else, but the data import wizard should drop us onto the right thing, right? That's the data import wizard. What you're dropping us to is is to imports. I don't know. It's a small thing, but it's misleading. I feel like data maps, same thing. Nothing super exciting there. Good thing to know about, you have data maps. So when you do save something or somebody saves an import wizard, it does get created as a map. So you're able to update. It's a little tricky to update those, but like 98% sure you can update those. Duplicate detection, awesome tool. I say awesome tool, good tool. I bet you it takes it to, so we got 3 different duplicate detections. Yep. So it took you to the settings. So that's duplicate detection. Yeah, that definitely took us to the settings, which I'm kind of okay with because that almost makes sense. So that's cool. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be helpful to grab some of these other things. If you're going to do duplicate detection, like drop us on just where those 3 are or something like that, or somehow merge those different things together, because that's a little misleading. So I like how this one's super specific, and then this one's super vague, and it could be multiple things, and neither of them kind of, I feel like, hit the mark. But that's me. So let us know in the chat and in the comments what you think. Is that different? I mean, the data import wizard, I feel like that should go right there. Sorry, blew into the mic. Duplicate detection. Oh, that's kind of a vague term. It's got multiple things going on, so maybe we should do a couple of these. But anyways, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And then encryption. I don't. Can you get to the encryption key in the administration center? I don't know if you can. So I feel like this is kind of newish. That may be somewhere else. I haven't had to mess with this or manage this at all. But you can do a current encryption key. So what's encrypting the data, and then you can actually change that yourself. So I'm not going to go ahead and unencrypt that since this is going out. But check that out. Find out more information. I'd have to look it up where the encryption key is if you want to change it, but you can change it. I'm 99% sure you can still do it in the old system or in the old UI if you don't have the preview yet. So check it out. Templates for data import. What did I click on before? Templates. Oh, this is the. I got mixed feelings on this. This is good still to have. Templates for data import is where it's at. So data management, data import. You notice that I've clicked a couple of different places. And so for them, it's kind of data management. It's all in one place. This makes sense to have it here and then to bring this in. So again, templates. And again, this is where I get confused. So they can take you directly to this for data import templates. But for data import wizard, they take you to like all imports. So anyways, that's interesting, and we'll leave it there. So, okay, cool. So that was actually everything that I don't think I went through the products, but everything else we went through. Privacy and security, I think we went through last time we talked about the Google stuff. If you have any questions sort of on this left-hand side, I don't think we did behaviors or features. So we'll go through those, but everything else down below here was done last week, and so check that out. So let's go through behavior. Here we can change the default app name. So if I change it here, I should see that. So Bacon Corp. We are not a corporation, by the way. This is just always the one that I use for demos. The Bacon Bites is not a corporation. We don't have nearly 6 people for a corp, an S corp, and then is it 100 people for like a full corporation? I don't know. There's size limits and stuff like that. So, anyways, autosave on or off, that makes sense. Static content from content delivery network. I don't know what that is. I'm interested in these ones. Default name. Customer engagement apps will load out of the box static content from Azure Content Delivery CDN. That's a new one. I've seen CDS, CDM. Now we have CDN and as a network for firewall restrictions and IP whitelisting related issues. Contact administrator. Interesting. So some of the whitelisting that you're going to do with your server based on who's able to access it is going to be controlled through that. It's interesting that it's on, and I'm definitely not, I haven't setting up anything, and I could access this from any device right now. Okay, let's press on. Share assigned records with original owner. Interesting. Let me know if you've seen this one before. I don't think I've seen this one before, though. And again, it's interesting. I think all this stuff is in all the other environments, but it just is showing it up here. And I like going through this kind of stuff because I didn't know that. But anyways, that's the concept that if I have records for Seth that I'm then going to give to Dion since she's in chat, and give these to Dion, and then Dion is going to receive them. Does Seth still have abilities to see those records with the sharing permission? And so by default, what does that look like? So that's an interesting one to do. Interesting use case. Often you see reassignment of records when somebody leaves or somebody's on vacation. And so it's also interesting that they're doing share when you have the ability to depending on how you set up. So based on the read, so if you have a lot of people that don't have read access, they may not be able to see them anyways. But if they have organizational read access, they could totally see it. So that's interesting. That's a curious one. I'm curious on use cases for that. So if you got one, drop it down in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know how you foresee using that one. Open application mode. This is so good that they put it out here, because they used to not put it in here. And so this treasure was something that it really breaks the system. When I go to system settings, and this was kind of buried and nobody knew about it. I mean, people knew about it, but open application and open Dynamics 365 in application mode. What would happen is, let me see if I turn it on. Let's go ahead and see if we can break some stuff. Haven't done this, and you notice I couldn't change it there. What you're going to notice is that a lot of this, the UI immediately changes when it gets flipped to application mode. And what would happen is, I don't know how the heck it would change, but back in the day, 2011, 2013, you notice that this is different. And so if the application doesn't load in a few seconds, let's change things. But what it would do is it would make it really hard to navigate. I can't open a window, so let's go ahead and allow everything. And try that again. But what would happen is it was really hard to turn it back off once you found it. So I got calls, I don't know, maybe once a year. If somebody had flipped it in application mode, they're like, oh, that's a good idea. We're releasing mobile or something like that. And they would flip it to application mode, and all of a sudden, it would go out. And so that was something that you learn to deal with. But it's nice that it's here, because in the application mode, sometimes it's hard to get to. So we'll leave that and let it spin real quick. Open in classic mode. It looks like it's defaulted to that. I'm curious on if we turn that off, what it gets opened in. Is that the new user interface? Unified interface? I'm curious. Interesting that we have a pop-up coming up over here. So we'll leave this and kind of run and we'll come back to it. Legacy form rendering. How is this different? Oh, you notice it doesn't have the back buttons. So it's an application, right? So sorry, we get segued. I feel like this was harder for some reason than it used to be. So they used to, you get an application like this, and it's kind of good because it drops some of the stuff, right? And so you just get this application view. But what is interesting is what happens, and again, this has been updated since 13, but you notice that it feels different, which isn't bad different. And if you trained on this, it'd be fine. But you don't have the back button, I think, is the biggest thing, because often people, when they're in browsers, get used to the back button. You notice that it opened in a new window, and you have to have the pop-up. Those are two different things, again, that you have to be aware of when you release it, that, hey, you're going to have to make sure that you enable pop-ups. And then two, that it's going to pop up in a new window. It's still doing that. We may be in a circular thing. I may have to fix this off stream. So we'll see. But anyways, different user experience. There's options. If you've ever used the app in an application mode, let us know in the comments in the chat. What's also interesting is it's for all users, and it's not just like a few users. So things to be aware of, right? So it's not like, oh, this department is going to use this. This is for the whole environment that you're impacting here. So other things that's good to know on here, formatting. This is something that's in the system settings as well. And again, I don't need to go through all of these because we have a full video that is quickly going to be outdated. But system settings, you can change the name, display currency symbols, or the code, so USD or $ or something like that. Currency precision, if you need to update that. Show app download message. Oh, these are good because I always hate these, so I'm going to turn these off. Well, so let's talk through the first three. The first three, so here's name over here on settings. is when you log into a new browser, you always get those yellow pop-up windows. Show the app download message. So download this app, or on landing page and what app switcher, download show default app on landing page and app switcher. Wait a second. Are these not what I think they are? Show app download message. I think that's download the app and then show default app on landing page. You know what, Microsoft? Good on you, because I have questions. And with these questions, I want answers. And with these answers, please be helpful. If on, users will see a message regarding downloading the Dynamics 365 for tablets apps. Yes, I was right on that. That was one of the yellow ones. Show default app on landing page and in app switcher. What the heck is that? Change to no to prevent. Oh, okay. So this one, yeah. If this one, let me go back to and duplicate this. If you were to go to, and Dion, I see your items in there, so I'm going to come back to those in just a minute. So this one right here. So this is very interesting. So the second one, right? So I wish I had like a third column I could do. Show default app on landing. So this is the default app. So that one we changed just now where we did Bacon Corp, that's this default one right here. So this default one is on the app lander. So if I have access to this, it's going to show there. What you could do is, if you don't see it there, then this may be turned off, right? So now how do I get to the default one? I see all these different apps that I've created, but I don't find the default one. So that can turn it on or off. Helpful and not helpful, right? So it's helpful for people that are going in and doing customizations and stuff like that, because they're going to go to that app and be able to log in and do it. For the people that don't use the app, and you've created a specific app for them, so it's the sales team. They have their own app, and they go to that URL or they go to this page. They don't if they have a login and a license, and I don't think there's any security around the default one. But if they're able to log in, then that's going to be an issue. So anyways, that's the app, default app on the landing page app switcher. So that's where that's at. So very interesting. A couple of questions came into the chat. In CRM 2011, if a record was assigned, it was automatically shared with the previous owner. This was a problem during one of my implementations, so I raised a ticket with Microsoft. Interesting. So it automatically associated with it with the previous owner. And okay, I could see that. Yeah. So I thought it was the other way around, where like it had never been that way. But what you're saying is that by default, it was, if I reassigned a record, the owner saw it. So if I reassigned an opportunity, the owner still saw it or something like that. And I could see issues if you're trying to if you need a Chinese firewall or something like that, where the data can be in the same database, but people can't see each other's information because they're in different departments or the same companies using it. Or I can definitely see how that would be the case. But I was thinking it was the other way around, where like if you reassigned it, nobody saw it. And so I appreciate that. I learned something new today. The other comment from Dion, they said it would be fixed in a later release, and now we have the option to turn this on and off. Dion, I appreciate you submitting that Microsoft support ticket. That was, they followed right up on that one for you. But anyways, I'm glad they changed it for you. I'm glad they came through. I'm glad we were able to show you that they did follow through on that promise to change it in a future release. I'm sure it was, I know multi-select and all that. There was a bunch of stuff that they've been fixing, but that's the other crazy thing. And I'm getting off on these tangents. I'm sorry. But when it comes to what they do and what they're releasing, it's been neat, because they actually have this and it's coming, and it's something that they are doing that's it's fixing like the foundation. So like this is a foundational thing, right? So if I reassign a record, I want it to behave a certain way, or I want the option to change how that gets behaved. And that's foundational. Reassigning a record Like that happens all the time. And so they're not only like doing the new and shiny things that people like, ooh, that's like amazing. But they're going back and fixing the small things that people were frustrated about. And I give props to Microsoft for that. That's not flashy. Like how many people are tweeting about, hey, you can now reassign a record and you now have the option to like turn it off and turn it on. Like that's, nobody's tweeting that because nobody's like, well, that doesn't matter. But at the same time, that's going to have an impact on implementations, how people implement the system. And that very much is a powerful component of it. And just fixing those small things that nobody's going to get highlights on. I mean, we're giving it more playtime here than probably anybody else on the web right now. But very much appreciate Microsoft going back, fixing the small things, making sure the foundation's solid, and giving people options to do these small things. And so it's the biggest and best thing, and also the absolute worst thing about Microsoft and Dynamics 365 and any business applications is so many things that you can do with it. And so when it comes to the best thing about Dynamics is that it's vanilla, and these business apps can do anything. That's also the worst thing because you can also do anything with it. I heard somebody talk about yesterday, earlier this week. What's the best thing about Dynamics 365? Can you do this with Dynamics 365? The answer is yes. Should you? The answer is no. And so always be checking that out. So good. Well, I think Baby Bacon is getting up. And so we're going to cut this short. Welcome screen on sign in. That's something that everybody's used to seeing. Microsoft Flow on forms and in the sitemap. Again, that's on the top. And if you go to a form itself, it's going to be there. That's nice that you can hide and show that. Again, just Microsoft being able to control that, allowing administrators to control that. And then show dashboard cards in expanded state. I don't recognize that one. Select on to see the detail card form in a dashboard. Oh, I think this is for like a unified interface. If set it off, only the header and the minimal details will display in the card form. So again, some more information there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one on, turn that one off. So I think that is everything. Features, Power BI visualization, Bing Maps, social data and dynamics, Skype presence. You can turn that on and off, country region prefix. Use telephony. Again, it'd be awesome to see them use additional things. At our company, we use Jabber. And so being able to see some more options in there, being able to quickly integrate with other telephony systems. I understand why Skype and Skype for Business, and, you know, they're going to rebrand this at some point with Teams, is there, but it would be good to have additional things. Relevancy searches in here, quick find record limits. I don't recognize that being a limit before, but apparently it is. So if more than 10,000 records are found, a message will be displayed that suggests more selective. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So you come in and you search for Smith and you get 10,001 records. Like that's like way too many records. Yeah, so be a little more specific around Smith again, because nobody's gonna be able to go through that. I'm surprised it's not 5,000, but it's cool. It's 10. Customization for help, customizable entities, custom help for customizable entities. You can turn that on or off. Learning path, interesting. Some of these are turned off. I wonder if you have to turn them off or agree to something somewhere else. And then auditing, again, interesting that auditing's turned on all of these. Is that out of the box? Anyways, that's in system settings if you want to look. And since we're there, we'll just pull it up right now and then just under the auditing tab. And so those are all there. So anyways, so that's what we got. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there with today's stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I always enjoy this. It's my opportunity to grab some coffee. I drank most of it. Be able to interact with the community again, be able to have an opportunity to go through sort of a learning. And again, I think this is, for me, this is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to go through and just see the changes that are coming, be able to record some stuff. Hopefully somebody out there had an opportunity to learn some more stuff. Dion, I very much appreciate you jumping in the chat today, and want to give you a shout out for all the different help that you provided. The color commentary sort of in there, and some of the actual practical use cases inside of you. Shout out for that. And then announcements, deprecation, and then actual use case for the reassigned records. And again, I think this is huge. I mean, this is two people just interacting, communicating. But when it comes to your local communities, you get this all the time. And there's online communities around this as well. So anyways, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I know I already said that. So we'll see if we have Mornings with Bacon next weekend. I'll actually be traveling, and so we'll be visiting family for the holidays, and it's right before Christmas. So stay posted, subscribe down below, let us know, and as always, hit us up in chat and Twitter and the comments down below. Let us know what you think and ways we can improve. So very much everybody have a great holiday season, and if we don't talk to you before the holidays, we'll catch you either at the end of the month or beginning of the new year. Have a great one, guys.